Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Record Breakers. I am Petey Rave, your man with no plan. Here with me is my team of record reviewers over there. We've got Brett.
Pain.
We've got Drew. And we've got Patrick.
That's all I got.
We're gathered to talk about music, and this week I am the provider of the music. I brought forth an interesting little album by a group named the Barberettes. They're the Barberettes, and the album is the Barberettes Volume 1. An interesting little group. They are made up of Sinead Wheeler, Grace Kim, and Sohee Park, aside from kind of their band that plays for them. Bunch of people that have been in music for a while. Sinead Wheeler specifically has been in music for a while now, as a vocal trainer, as a session vocalist. Has been in bands and major labels, music for major labels, written and been backing vocals for a lot of songs. I believe she's been, she's listed as a vocal participant on 110 released records registered with the Federation of Korean Music Performers. So they're all, musicians and vocalists and have been around for forever. And she decided to make a retro doo-wop group inspired by Motown and barbershop music and pop music from the 60s and whatnot, kind of like, taking from here and there, and partially inspired by the Kim sisters, who appeared on Ed Sullivan and had a big time in Vegas, kind of was a mainstay in Vegas around that time. And they decided to kind of make this group. Had been playing around Hongdae, and I, have kind of made a following on YouTube and whatnot. And I thought I'd share it with the group. I'll start with Patrick. What expectations did you have coming into this album?
Knowing it was from you and that I hadn't heard of it, I figured there was a good chance it was Korean, which is okay. I mean, hey, some of the Korean stuff you've brought has been excellent. And with a name like the Barberettes, you feel like, I figure it could go two ways, and this is before I heard anything. It's either some sort of weird punk band, or it's sort of a 50s vibe in one way or another, whether that's like a rockabilly thing or a doo-wop or something along those lines. And I didn't know which way it was going to go. It went one of those ways.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what expectations do you have coming into this album?
That I wasn't going to be able to understand a goddamn word of it. Those are my only expectations at the point that I was given it. Because the way it works is, if Petey hands us an album, or tells us the album we're listening to, and then has to hand it to us through Skype or whatever other means, it tells us to, like, hey, I got this from, like, somewhere. Like, we should all listen to it. It's Korean. Like, there was no doubt in my mind that I was getting something from South Korea that I could not find in America, and I needed to listen to this toot sweet. So I knew that was going to go into it. Knowing that he had just gotten back from Texas, from the South by Southwest, I had a suspicion that it was going to be something from the K-pop night of South by Southwest. Besides those, I wasn't even as far as Patrick in my assumptions about what this was going to be.
Yeah.
I was lost.
Yeah.
So
it was, it was a group that I know, the Sinead Wheeler. I took a picture with her at South by Southwest. She was pretty rad. Brett, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
Well, I was wondering if there was a band of barbers that had like they wanted to expand the roster, so they had like the Barberettes.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I with a name like Barberettes, what could you get?
Yes,
a Korean band. I did not expect that. Seeing that I was not really vocal, it was not vocalized to me what this band was when I first got a message on my phone telling me what this is. I had no clue. But because I profile Petey, it's either Scroobius Pip and Dan Lasac or Korean stuff. I assume this was going to be Korean stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and musically, I mean, we're talking about the themes and elements. Like I said, doo-wop, Motown, a little bit of barbershop music, pop music, mixes, dabbles and jumps into these different points. Kind of jumps around the 50s and 60s a little bit. Sometimes into, one track particularly jumps into the 60s. They're definitely inspired by the Kim sisters, like I said, by Andrew's sisters, by the Ronettes, groups like that. They do pull elements of retro Korean music, which kind of like especially with their tribute to the Kim sisters, which we'll talk about when we key tracks. But yeah, 50s and 60s jumping around here and there with different sounds, and really done well. It has a jazz sound. The musicians really perform well. It's very smooth and centered around the vocals, but the performers kind of make their presence felt. It's not solo heavy, but they may make their presence felt, and they announce who they are. So it has a good, really cool musicianship to it, which I really dig. Patrick, what themes and elements caught your attention?
One word: juxtaposition. So let's take a music genre defined by basically black women in the 50s, and let's have it be sung in Korean by little tiny Korean girls. Except it works. It works so much better than I ever thought it would. So like 15 years ago in America, there was kind of this weird 50s retro thing that kind of became a thing for 8 minutes, where like Brian Setzer was selling records again, and this band called Cherry Pop and Daddies happened. And most of us were young enough not to quite understand what Cherry Pop and Daddies, like as a name, really said. Mm-hmm. And here's these girls who are, as far as I can tell, kind of exceptional musicians, singing dead on like 50s doo-wop pop music, but in Korean and in kind of like their own unique twist that works way better than it should. And I think that was like, it is totally retro, but because of their background and because of the language barrier, it makes it kind of new and weird in a really wonderful way.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what themes and elements caught your attention?
The absolute first thing that struck me when I started listening to this record, and that sort of really surprised me, was the stylistic choice in mixing. Like I said, I had zero clue going in. I try to, as much as I can, go in completely blind my first listen through, and then go through and sort of research what I've gotten myself into. There's been a couple of times where I've dabbled in like kind of peeking at stuff on YouTube or whatever, but I went in completely fresh with this one. And hearing the mixing, it definitely got their goal across of sounding sort of like that 50s, 60s doo-wop style, because it sounded from that aspect, from that style, straight off of the like sort of 50s radio like style to me. And it really was cool. It really worked. The backing music emphasizes the whole thing very well. The style of it does really, really wonders for that. The vocals, though, were mixed very sort of modern for the most part, which is kind of cool because you get this great the great vocal harmonies that you get from these three are just really, really great. They don't do anything crazy. They don't do anything out of this world. They don't do anything that's like insane, right? But what they do really solidly. They do it really, really well. They just do, like, we wanted to make a sort of doo-wop group, and we're gonna do that. And everything just sort of works in that respect. I might be a little bit of a sucker for as the doo-wop and the swing and that era of music, so I might not be the best judge of if it was great or not, but it's just fun.
Yeah,
had a great time.
Great sounds. Brett, what themes and elements caught your attention?
Well, as for me, you guys all know that I dig jazz. I lived that life once upon a time. But there's one thing I don't really like, and that's vocalized jazz. I prefer listening to my jazz where the voicing is done by a sax or guitar. It mainly probably just comes down to the like lack of credit that musicians behind the pretty faces on the microphone. But beside that prejudice that I have coming into it, I was really impressed with the skill of the vocals. It seemed less like somebody who like it seemed like somebody who wasn't hired out as a pretty face that they then honed into a group. It seemed more like something that was a passion project by somebody who actually, came up with this, which, as reading, it's a lot less of the, what I was fearing when it comes to popular music, in a very, very artificial, plasticky way that a lot are. But the masses, that this would be for are probably not a Western mass. This is something that most people would hear and enjoy, but they would first be like, okay, what is this music? When is it from? And what language are they singing in? But all of those things are like curiosities that I was drawn to. So it's a very interesting album, and I'm the better for having heard it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it jumps around, like I said, musically in a lot of ways. We talk about like key tracks. We talk about the opening track. I'll do the record breakers. In the opening track, Little Girls, it's kind of a track that was written for them, and I wish I had the information readily in front of me of who wrote this song, but he wrote it for them specifically. It's a longtime composer, musician, and it's like about them, and they just kind of sing there. But it has a really cool opening. It sets the tone for what you're. It really does set the tone of what's happening on this record. We have Kukurichu, which is just a fun, fantastic, doo-wop track, and it's so much fun. And lyrically, it's fun, especially when you go and you listen to. They close it out. It's the second track and the last track, because the last track is in English, which is really cool. And I would say also, because I would say, like we mentioned, I did see them at South by Southwest, and one of the kind of interesting things was the fact that it was K-pop night out. It was headlined by Epic High and Crayon Pop. Big names. A lot of people were going to see them. I knew who the Barberettes were before then, and I was a fan. I was excited to see them as part of the whole night. I was excited to see everybody, but them included. And I was worried. It's like, they're the opening act. They're one of the kind of the non-pop, like, they're not K-pop proper. To them and like the two bands that started out the night, they're the opening acts. I'm worried about how they were going to be received. But they won everyone over with their, I should have said this in themes and so they won everyone over that night. And I would say one of the big songs that had everybody hyped, and I'm gonna imagine y'all were gonna guess which song, which is "When It's Raining." Had everyone hyped, and I'm not gonna go full details because I'll let y'all go into your impressions, but "When It's Raining" had everyone hyped and singing along and excited, and it was just such a fun night. But yeah, such great energy of these songs. Patrick, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
I'm going to talk about Kukurichu because you talked about it, but I'm going to talk about different things. The opening had this great slide dobro resonator guitar part, and it made me realize how much I like a slide on a dobro or resonator guitar. It's just cool sound. It's totally unique. It sounds cool, and like K-pop tends to be really happy, and this was a really happy kind of song. But because it was done in this very retro style, it felt different than the rest of the sort of K-pop world. These girls can freaking sing. The harmonies on every single track are basically perfect. They're really pretty. They're really nice. They sound good. And that song really, like, that is the probably, if I had to guess, the single. If I were the record label, that would be what I would push, because Kukurichu is just a fun song. And I'll talk about the one Petey mentioned, "When It's Raining." Good God, that's a good song. The vocals are so good on that. It's a little more fun, a little more rock and roll, with their doo-wop. And it's just, it builds really well. The vocals are spectacular, like the rest of the record. And that was probably the two songs that stood out to me among what otherwise are actually really good songs.
Yeah. Though technically they haven't had a single aside from their Be My Baby cover. They just kind of had YouTube songs, songs on YouTube.
Well, someone should make a video for Kukri Chew and put that shit on YouTube and
They
get a
probably
bunch of views.
I gotta look out on YouTube. They've put a couple of things on YouTube. But that being said, Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Thing is, I'm going to talk about all the ones you talked about, and that's why I cursed in the middle of you talking.
I'm sorry, Drew.
No. Petey mentioned all three songs that I'm about to mention, and that's why I went, damn it, because I hate doing that. But I don't care, because those three songs hit me all in very cool ways, which I will now get into. Little Girls, let's start out. Something about the guitar line, the walking bass line, something about it just worked for me. The way the rhythm just sort of gets your head doing that like little sway back and forth. You just sort of you find yourself like falling into that with certain songs, and that song did that for me. Cuckoo, the piano to me in that one was just flipping fantastic. That almost ragtimey feel to it was fun. I liked it way more than I think I oughta. And then When It's Raining, that to me screamed crowd pleaser. The like two hits and the clap thing that you can do in the crowd, the like singy bits in it that like no matter what language you understand or are born with in the world that you can still get into. Something about that one just screamed like, oh, okay. Now I remember, like, that was the one that was like, oh, wait. P probably found this at K-pop night. And then I looked them up on Wikipedia, and they were at the 2015 South by Southwest. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, this has South by, like, a great crowd at South by Southwest written all over it. And it was just fun. Like, and from top to bottom. Like, that to me is sort of the example of what this album is. Again, it's nothing new. It's nothing you probably haven't heard before. But damn it if it isn't fun.
Yeah, it damn sure is fun. Brett, what would be some of the tracks that caught your attention?
I'm old hat now. Let's talk about Kukri Chew. Yeah, there's some fun slide guitar. But moreover, there's some pretty decent chicken picking going on, and this is probably a first for Brett Hibbard to hear a Korean band do the surf music pipeline thing, and that made me smile like inside, deep inside. And just to be even extra lame, When It's Raining, this track is very different from the other tracks, feeling like it's from a couple decades more recent as an influence. And they also have what I think, if I'm a good gumshoe, that it's the sound of tongue clacking, like a in as a cappella claves, and then comes in with an organ, which organs never really a bad choice.
Yes, they use a couple of like instances of organs, especially kind of in their slower songs, like and we can go. We'll bring in other songs like Summer Night Wind and Summer Night Dream, how they kind of fit together, and Spring Greeting, which is nobody mentioned, Bomachi, which is their tribute to the Kim sisters, and Mrs. Lonely, and all these songs. Yeah, fantastic songs. And I love that, When It's Raining, the other cool thing about it is that that goes back and forth between the same set of lyrics in Korean and English, Korean, English, Korean, English, which does really well and kind of fun. And the English version of Kukri Chew. Let's go back around the horn to have some conclusive thoughts. Patrick, what would be your thoughts on this album overall?
I enjoyed this way more than I thought I would. And that's not to say Petey brings bad music, because Petey has brought some of my favorite stuff, but the Korean stuff it's hard to get into because I don't speak the language. But this, I spoke the musical language, so the physical bit of language I didn't care about. I kind of let that go because it was so damn good. It makes you realize, so like, to reference a previous show when we talked about Reign of Kindo, or Kindo or whatever they are. They had that song about how music's made by people who don't know how to make music and pop music's terrible. This is pop music done by musicians. Like, these girls can freaking sing. They write a lot of this. As far as I can tell, they all know how to play instruments. Yeah. It makes you wish American pop music was done by more musicians, and we've had some of that. I mean, Lady Gaga can freaking play piano really well, but it's not the normal thing in American pop music to have a musician making the music. And it's cool that this is musicians making music that they want to make, that is retro and true to its time that it's referencing, but doesn't feel like it's just trying to repeat the past. It's trying to take that style, make it new again, and make it fun again. And more so than a lot of things, this is one of those albums that you really got to go sit down and listen to, because it's just way better than I thought it was. It made me happy. And that's like, it's a really nice little escape. And that is hard to find in music, where music will just take you on a little journey somewhere else and make you smile the whole time.
Yes. A little time travel action. Drew, what are your conclusive thoughts about the album overall?
Y'all surprise me sometimes, because I get music that I absolutely fall for in really cool ways from each of you. And that's why I love doing this show, is that y'all bring me music that I never knew I wanted until the moment I heard it. And this is one of those albums that just, Brett has said it before in other shows. Before, I think he may have said it earlier, actually, weirdly enough. It's been a long day for me. But I'm better for having heard it, just because, like, it's that thing, like Swagger said. It's, you wish pop music here had people like this making it. And like Brett said earlier, it's a passion project, sure. But it shows that there's passion behind the music to me. When people go, okay, I've made tons of money off of this other offshoot of music, but I have a love for doo-wop music and old, like, American 50s pop. So I'm just going to do it just because I have the money now. That's cool as hell.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is what musicians do. It's like, oh, I have the money to do whatever I want. I'm just going to do exactly that.
Yeah.
Is whatever the hell I want. And it shows. It's just fun.
Yeah. Brett, what would be your conclusive thoughts about the album overall?
Well, when Petey brings me an album that has unintelligible lyrics, at least it's not my fault or it's not the musician's fault for not being very good at enunciating the language. It's just me not being able to understand the language as it's being sang. I did enjoy the way that you can make a sing song, a genre that is not native to a land, sound so very, very tight and like it belongs. That is really, for something that's retro styled and could come off as like absolute kitschy schlock, it did not. When Petey brings me an album that has musicians that are, skilled in their arts, more than just a face that they can put on posters, and are able to reach the heart of a man in Miami. What better reason is there for me to try and give a listen, even though it's not going to probably ever come up in my playlist again, unless I'm like, hey guys, check this shit out. It's something that you can learn to dig. It's something that even if you go into it and you're like, what is this? This is like Fallout New Vegas music, but done in a weird language. Once you get over that, it's music, and you can appreciate good music, can't you?
Yes, you can. Yes, we can. It's kind of the funny things when I bring in something Korean and I don't mention K-pop. My goal is to divorce the idea that K-pop is the entirety of what is in Korean, the music lineup that is being done in Korea. Because in my journey, and a lot of I will admit, a lot of this journey involves Hallyu and our mutual friend, the poet laureate of Record Breakers, King Kaz, introducing me to K-pop, and then me going, hey, what else is in there? And started peeling back layers, started getting into groups that are, a little more indie. I will give credit to Simon and Martina and Eat Your Kimchi and their like Korean indie playlist for a lot of this stuff. But like this stuff that is under layer, people that are just making music and playing clubs in Hongdae, just kind of signed to smaller labels and stuff like that. There is stuff out there. And some interesting stuff out there. And this is another great group. They're a bunch of talented, adorable, awesome girls. They have a bunch of talented people working with them. Shanae Wheeler is fantastic. And she's a great singer. She's a great musician. She's a big part of the creative mind of this. And she took a picture with me at South by Southwest, and that makes her awesome. She was, and I will say a lot of it is that she just kind of wandered out and hung out with everybody and started passing out like stickers and flyers and stuff, and like, took pictures with people out in the line that, the line of people that were waiting there 7 hours to see Epic High. She just kind of just hung out with everybody, and it was really cool. All right, back to the album. This is an album that has a lot of really cool sounds, has a lot of really cool like talent in it, and a lot of really cool feel, and it just is a good album. It's just good jazz, doo-wop, rock, retro beautifulness. Just enjoy it. Just listen to it. Jam out and listen to it. Love the Barberettes. All right. My incoherent rambling aside, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Let's get down to our haikus. Let's see who goes first. Let's go reverse. Brett, what is your haiku?
Sweet voices, sweet gals, another Korean team, care of our Petey.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what is your haiku?
Doo-wop till you drop. Beautiful harmonies and a wonderful groove.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, what is your haiku?
Beautiful escape into poppy yesteryear. Good times all around.
All right, and my haiku, and I'm gonna do it in Korean, and I realize that might be racist, but I'm sorry. And also, I apologize, 죄송합니다, to the members of the Barberettes if you do happen to watch this, especially Shanann, for my pronunciation and how terrible I'm gonna do this. 대한민국이 시간 여행 걸그룹 Barberettes 짱.
Huh?
In other words, Korea's Republic of Korea's time traveling girl group, the Barberettes, are the best. But since it's Korean, the syllables matched. That being said, those are our thoughts on the Barberettes. Go check them out. They're on places. They're on vinyl. You get the BAINIL vinyl. It's actually a really cool app. Really cool little app. You get a bunch of Korean. It's free, and it's a little store where you can buy Korean indie music, and the artists get like 70% of the money it makes. So, like, it's pretty rad. Go check it out. It's a free app. It doesn't cost you anything. And you might be able to check out and they give you free samples, so you might be able to check out some really cool
Is
stuff.
vinyl like straight up English? Like that sounds like English.
Yeah,
especially
kind of.
because it's printed on a turntable.
Yeah, I mean it's play on words. It's a play on pronunciation, I will say. It's not so much English as it is a play on pronunciation.
Intentionally English?
Yeah, in a sense. Because you can copyright this.
Because you can get a URL for that.
Exactly. Just don't pay attention to the wording of the rest of the stuff they have on there. That being said, go check it out. Korean indie music, it's all there. The artists get a ton of the music, a ton of the revenue. So support indie music anywhere. That being said, you can find most of our music, just not this, on our Spotify playlist. Theoretically on that Spotify playlist will also be our next album, which is brought to you by Patrick. Patrick, what is our album next week?
So I'm gonna do what I think is technically our first repeat artist, but it's only half a repeat. So some time ago we did Husker Du, and we all liked it. And I'm picking the album I listen to almost daily on my stuff I listen to at work. Bob Mould from Husker Du, his album Silver Age.
I should probably have shown you in the meantime. But yeah, check that out. Good.
In the Meantime's actually a Helmet album.
Oh, okay, that's
technically,
true.
it's a Helmet song. The album's called Meantime.
Yes. That being said, wait for that. You can find us all over the internet. Patrick is at the Swagger. Brett is at HeyBittyBearBird, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at X for X. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Rebellion.net for this and other shows. iTunes, Stitcher, all over the place. Wherever podcasts are found. Subscribe, share, like. Until next time. Hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.
Annyeong.